Hello and welcome to the Pork and Knuckles show, where we take a bite out of the movies, literally. So this segment is Indiana Jones. Indiana
yes.
Jones. The first of many, actually. It was a groundbreaking franchise. And, well, this episode is going to be a fact battle.
Yes, so you're going to lose again.
We will see.
I heard.
We will see.
Shall I begin?
I think you should.
Good. Let's start with my random sex fact. The opening sequence had live tarantulas on Alfred Molina.
Oh, wow.
But the problem was, when they filmed it, the tarantulas did not move until they put a female tarantula on him as well. Then all the men started crawling and moving.
So, speaking of, this movies, the first movie, the rat scene, is the first time rat insurance was ever taken out.
Please, what?
Rat insurance. And they were breeding rats specifically for the movie.
Yes.
And I think if they lost over 1,000 rats, the insurance policy would have to pay out.
Which is interesting, but not as interesting as my so-called random crap fact. Because a lot of people got sick during the production of Indiana Jones, and including John Rhys-Davies, one of my all-time favorite actors who was in basically everything. But there is a deleted scene where Salah is confronted by a Nazi soldier, and John Rhys-Davies, who was suffering from cholera at the time, was required to bend down, and that was enough to prompt him to soil himself.
Oh God.
So this is literally a crap fact.
So, Temple of Doom created the PG-13 rating.
That is actually incorrect.
That is correct. Why is it incorrect?
Because it was Gremlins, I think.
No, Temple of Doom.
Okay.
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom
was
was
the first one.
Yeah.
And it created the PG-13 rating.
Of course, it was Steven Spielberg, because Steven Spielberg is the kind of director going to the MPAA and saying, okay, you're going to create a new rating for my film, and they said, okay, Meister. Speaking of Meisters, I thought something was off when I watched the first movie, and there was, actually, because the Nazis speak German in a lot of the scenes, but in the original version of the film, they had a very, very bad German with thick American accent. And they had that in the movie, but then, like a special edition DVD release, they changed that in the newer DVD special editions, and they had German actors dubbing over the originally bad German dialogue in the film and re-recorded the lines. So they had a southern German accent now.
Interesting.
That is ridiculous.
Interesting. So, The Last Crusade made Petra so famous. I think Petra, before the movie was released, had few thousand visitors a year. After that, it spiked up to 1 million visitors in the first year. It went completely, it put it on the map. It was just like, wow. And it was quite cool. It was quite cool.
Number 2, this, I have to include this, but this is one of the most well-known facts about Indiana Jones. I spoke about people getting sick on the shooting. Mostly everyone got sick of the cast and crew, except director Steven Spielberg, because he only ate canned SpaghettiOs that he brought with him, and did not eat the food from there. And the real fact that I want to say is, of course, the famous scene where Indiana Jones shoots the guy who is confronting him with the sword fight. And in the original script, there should have been an elaborate fight scene between Indy and this guy, but they couldn't do it because Harrison Ford was sick and was sitting on the toilet all day.
Oh, God.
So I think he even had a fever or something. So after like 40 takes that went nowhere, Harrison Ford said, why can't I just shoot the sucker? And Steven Spielberg said, okay, do it. And they did it first take. And this is one of the most famous scenes of film, actually.
Another interesting, the first ever digitally composed shot was in Indiana Jones, when the girl picks up the wrong chalice, gives it, and when he turns into a skeleton completely, that's the first ever digitally composed shot in cinema. And Spielberg again Two firsts. PG-13 and the first digitally composed shot.
Good. My number one fact, which is something that is not in the movie, actually, which is a behind-the-scenes only fact,
Okay.
and I have to read this off of the IMDb because it's so unbelievable. While filming the whipping scene in the second film, the crew played a practical joke on Harrison Ford. While he was chained to a large stone, suddenly Barbara Streisand appeared, dressed in a leather dominatrix outfit. She proceeded to whip Harrison Ford, saying, "That's for the Deadly Triangle, the worst movie I ever saw." She continued whipping him for Star Wars and making all of that money. And then Carrie Fisher came in, threw herself in front of Harrison Ford to protect him, and Aaron Kirshner chided director Steven Spielberg. Is this how you run your movies? And this entire sequence, and this is the best part, was filmed, but sadly never released in any form that I could find, because I really, really want to see that. This is funny beyond belief.
My fact, the last one.
Yeah.
The 4 horses that they ride off in the sunset are the King of Jordan's horses. He gave it to the movie to use. Job done.
Speaking of job done, that was it for today's episode.
That's it.
That's job done for us, job done for you. You endured another episode of the Pork and Knuckles Show, but not go yet, because you cannot forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what your favorite Indiana Jones fact is. Also, please put a red X in your calendar on the next Saturday, because then we will be back with a brand new episode about Indiana Jones.
Take care. Hello and welcome to the Pork and Knuckles Show, where we take a bite out of the movies, literally. So in today's episode, we're covering Indiana Jones. And I've decided that let's bring in 3 countries together. So, a lot of Middle Eastern based stuff. So we've got bread, Egyptian. We've got fried aubergine, which is a very, very Middle Eastern dish. Maybe even Lebanon and stuff like that. And what we're going to do is first fry the aubergine. So Porky's going to dice them up, not dice them up, cut them in palm sizes, thicknesses, finger thickness, and then we're going to make tomato, onions, lemon, parsley, chili, salt, pepper, and olive oil mix, and we're going to put that on top of the fried aubergine, which will go on top of the bread, and kind of like a bruschetta. Let's see how it goes. So, for the aubergine, all we're going to do is get some salt, 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of pepper, slice up the aubergines, coat it, and fry it. Then, we're going to put the tomato, let's call it tomato salsa on top. Dice up the tomatoes, dice up an onion, get 2 lemon wedges, salt, 1 tablespoon, pepper, 1 tablespoon, parsley, 1 tablespoon, and chili, depending on how hot you want it. This is to taste. Right, let's see how we're getting along. So now the aubergines are ready, pat dried, the tomato salsa is ready. So all we're going to do is put the aubergine on the bread, whack some tomato salsa on top, and eat it. We are now ready. Porky, show the camera.
Oh yes, I will.
Thank you very much for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and definitely try this. It's an easy recipe. And see you next week. Thank you for watching. Take care.
Hello and welcome to the Pork and Knuckles Show, where we take a bite out of the movies. Literally. And today, we're whipping ourselves into the... What?
The whip.
Yeah, I need to make that effect. Anyways, we're whipping ourselves back in history, back in time, to one of the greatest, biggest film franchises of all time, Indiana fricking Jones. And did you know that Indy and Harry Potter share their middle name?
Cool.
Great! And seriously, Indiana Jones is awesome. I love this. I loved the first film.
The first was superb.
To death.
First was superb, second not so good, third was equally as good as the first one, and the fourth was an abomination.
We will not talk about the fourth, hopefully.
No, complete abomination.
Great, yeah, because this is, seriously, because what I don't understand, okay, I have to start with the fourth. What I don't understand is it has Steven Spielberg and George Lucas behind it, two of the most influential people on this entire planet who made...
Sure.
These films are riddled with cliches, but not because they incorporated the cliches. They made these cliches become cliches. They shaped the entire film industry with their creative genius behind the things that they did. And then, what felt like an eternity later, they took everything that they created and they defecated on it. And
but they're looking to make a fifth one. I don't... Oh, God.
No. The only thing that I can say and want to say about this fourth movie is watch the South Park episode on it. It has all the required dialogue about this. Because what I felt was such a disgrace to the first films, even the second one, which I also didn't really like.
Second one was rubbish.
And is the fact that what makes the Indiana Jones movies good is the fact that they put you as a viewer in the middle of the action. You have the feeling of being part of it. You have the feeling with the superb stunts, sometimes even done by Harrison Ford himself, or one of the greatest stuntmen and stunt coordinators of all time, Vic Armstrong. They are ridiculous. And everything looks so real. Everything looks like you're there. And then you have a CGI-infested nightmare with blurry images where you can see that they're just standing in front of a crappy green screen. Nothing is there. Nothing is real. They had surreal moments in all these films, like plane fight scenes and something like that. But they were there. They did something.
No, and it was the whole point of Indiana Jones.
They're fighting in between moving cars in a freaking jungle.
You're seeing tanks blow up, planes blow up. That was cool because they were real. God. And then what was the fourth? The first one, the whipping sound, the whip is introduced, Nazis come in. It is so good. The first one, brilliant. I don't think they could get it wrong. It was superb. The ending was slightly mental. You're just like, okay, they've just made it good into like, what is happening? Everyone's melting. What's going on? But obviously he did not want the comparison with Monty Python. So, but there is no comparison. It's action-packed brilliance. Indiana Jones is superb. I think I really, really liked the first one. Second one was not as good. I mean, they went all in Asia. Fine, nothing against Asia, but it wasn't as good. And
you know what broke the second one? There is one thing that destroyed the second one.
The elephant riding.
No, Kate Capshaw. She destroyed this entire movie. What I loved is first she had to be taught how to scream, which she perfected because that is only thing she does. She's even very critical of her own character, saying that Willie was not much more than a dumb screaming blonde, which, full stop, is true. And you know that she is very afraid of snakes. And there was in real life, Harrison Ford is not afraid of snakes so far that the pet handlers who put snakes in front of him were actually surprised by how well he went along with the snakes, but she hated it. She had a panic attack just by the sheer thought of having to work with a snake on screen, and Steven Spielberg cut the scene and then later said that the only reason why Kate Capshaw later married him was that he allowed the scene to be cut. But I remember my best thing about this miserable performance, because, you know, we are sitting here talking crap about Kate Capshaw. She will never see this video, but in 1984 she appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson to promote the film, and after her appearance of the show came another segment of the show with Siskel and Ebert coming in, doing their regular movie reviews, and they slammed her performance in this movie, calling it wimpy and whiny, and then from off camera, Kate Capshaw told the two people, please don't talk about me like stop? I'm not here.
Okay, let's talk about Indiana Jones, yes. Please. This is why we're here. I quite like the shorty sidekick. I thought he was quite cool. It's a good little end to it. I mean, very cliche, but at that time, this was the cliche. Short little sidekick wants to be Indiana Jones. Okay, fine, I get it. But they exaggerated all of this voodoo magic stuff, which I thought, you know what, Indiana Jones, yes, there's magic involved, but it's about blowing things up. It was so cool. Yeah. And what did they do with it?
It's about an adventure. I mean, funny thing is that both Steven Spielberg
blowing up adventures
and George Lucas were going through a divorce while, or managing their divorces and breakups while doing the film, which is why it turned out so dark in comparison to the other movies. But one thing, we said, I'm positive that there is no better actor to play Indiana Jones than Harrison Ford.
If there is Indiana Jones, there's Harrison Ford, otherwise there's no Indiana Jones.
There is only one person who can rival him when it comes to charm, when it comes to his on-screen performance in this role, and that is Sean Connery.
And Indiana Jones.
No, but the play.
The father was a good.
The father. That's what I meant. The two indies, the two Joneses. They were brilliant to watch.
They had to get a ghostwriter for their main dialogue just to build a relationship. Yeah. Because there wasn't much in it, and I quite liked it. I liked that bit. It was just like cool. His father's introduced into the movies.
The best scene was when they were taped together.
Yes.
And they were just arguing. This is so much fun. And sadly, I did not find any information of how well Harrison Ford and Sean Connery actually got along with each other. But
well, they did enough to take the pants off and film a scene together. Because it was so hot. So they did get along. Yeah. I tell you that now, they got along. So yeah, boom.
Well, I'm not wearing pants, and I hate you.
We are wearing pants. Yeah, I'm wearing pants. I'm making it clear, I'm wearing pants.
I'm not getting that.
Issues. Hopefully we're not going through a divorce and making this a terrible second Indiana Jones, because then it would be a complete outrage.
I think whatever we do, it can't be as bad as Crystal Skull.
One thing I had to trying to process. So you're getting chased by a tank and you're riding a horse. How can the horse catch up to a tank? The speed doesn't work. The tank is faster than a horse. What's going on there? But it's Indiana Jones, so anything is possible.
I don't mind.
Anything is possible.
I actually don't mind this. What I found interesting, because we're talking about Indiana Jones as the masterpiece that is, and did you know that the movie had a hard time even getting made? Because even with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg behind the idea, every major studio in Hollywood declined the idea and refused to make the film. But then Paramount agreed, and even agreed to make a very strange deal, because they financed the entire film's budget, but George Lucas would still own over 40% of the film with a big revenue share. So even though he did not have to put in money, he made more money from this film than Paramount.
Guess what? It became a Paramount success.
I'm going. That's it.
Oh God, I stood up. That's it. Let's make it a Paramount success. It's done. It's over.
It's over. This is the worst thing ever uttered by...
You have survived. You have survived. Yeah. You have survived.
You know what? This was the second worst thing that a human being has ever said, only surpassed by the sentence, "Let's make Indiana Jones 4."
5. This is the...
Oh my God, no.
They're making a 5. Anyway, okay.
No, I'm out.
Thank you very much for watching. Thank you. Please like, subscribe.
And most importantly, join us back next Saturday for a brand new episode of the Pork and Knuckles Show. See ya.
Take care.
Hello and welcome to the Pork and Knuckles Show, where we take a bite out of the movies. Literally. Just like it kinda appears that you already took out several bites of me, but today we are going the good old-fashioned Indiana Jones route. Well, something the like. And I would like to start with the film Romancing the Stone, starring Michael Douglas, which is often called an Indiana Jones ripoff. But it's not, since actually the script of the film was written 5 years prior, back in 1979.
Okay, cool.
So once again, we have a ripoff that's not actually a ripoff because it was written before. And the funny thing is that the studio executives thought this movie is going to bomb. At the first test screenings, no one apparently liked this film, so that director Robert Zemeckis was preemptively fired from his next directing job for the film Cocoon, but then, after the film turned out, basically to rectify themselves for firing him over this movie, he got offered the chance to direct Back to the Future.
And there you go.
And there you go. But the thing is, what do you think about Romancing the Stone?
Well, the first 30 minutes were a complete waste of time.
Yes.
It's just like...
As were the last 60.
Nothing happened. Yeah. Of course, you gotta have a pet crocodile, because that's Indiana Jones. That's
or Miami Vice. I don't know.
And then it gives complete madness. There's a lot of swinging on vines, but there's no gravity attached to it. I mean, you're swinging from one end to the other, but then there's a slight extension in this movie, so you reach your destination. It was interesting. I didn't quite get the point of the movie. What was the point of this movie?
That's a good question. It's basically an author of books experiencing an adventure.
This was not an adventure.
No, not really. Well, they were almost cooked, but the funny thing is about the cooking sequence, it was like, how much paper mache can this clay pot look?
It was, trying to wrestle a crocodile really put it to... like, you crossed the line there. What else?
We can say that the film is basically like Indiana Jones if you take out all the joy, all the excitement, all the coolness of Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
and make it long, boring
the drug lords
dribble.
got involved, classic name Pepe, and then he had, what was this? Lupus skate bridge. I thought that was a brilliant thing in the movie. So there's no bridge to cross the river, but the drug lord has a button, bridge pops up, crosses the river. Superb.
Yeah, I would like to have a button like this.
This was superb. It was, it was cool. I liked it. And then the best part of the movie was the 1973 Renault 4L. I love that car. That was the best part of the whole movie, was the car. That's it. That's my take on this movie. Let's give me your take and then we move on.
There's one last thing that I want to add, because Danny DeVito is in the film, an actor I really like.
He's a great actor.
And do you know that Danny DeVito and Michael Douglas were actually roommates when they lived in New York City? And after Michael Douglas had success on the streets of San Francisco, the TV show, he moved out of this apartment but continued to pay the rent so that Danny DeVito could live there, and he would then later offer the part of Ralph to DeVito because the two were basically friends, which I really like, which shows that Michael Douglas was an awesome, or is an awesome guy, awesome character. And actually, Michael Douglas didn't want to take the role at first, but then he was won over because he was able to exhibit his rock climbing skills. Because at the age of 16, he was a rock climber. He loved to climb rocks. He did it with his father, Kirk, on the set of Spartacus, or next to the set of Spartacus, which is a very interesting thing. Also, do you know that there was a chance that Sylvester Stallone would appear in the film, but he turned down the role of Jack T. Colton in order to act in Rhinestone, and to quote Sylvester Stallone, "That's a decision I deeply regret."
Oh God.
Speaking of deep regrets...
They made a second one, which...
Yeah, the sequel was a juvenile film.
Yes, let's...
Get it? A juvenile film. Juvenile.
That took a long time.
This is funny! I made a funny! No, let's move over to Quatermain,
Oh,
King
God.
Solomon's Mines, and before we start, one of my all-time favorite film facts of all time, hands down the best story I have ever heard. Do you know that Sharon Stone for this film was only hired by mistake?
Really?
Yeah, she wasn't supposed to be hired, but producer Menachem Golan from Canon Films said, I want that stone woman, because he wanted Kathleen Turner from Romancing the Stone to be the lead female actress, and the casting director then said, oh, the stone woman, so he means Sharon Stone.
Oh, God.
This is the best fucking story I have ever heard.
It's interesting we're moving on from this to this, because... Quatermain was rubbish. It was a cheap version, like, of Indiana Jones, low budget. I mean, the racist jokes were... the spy was terrible. The racist jokes were terrible. It's just like, camel jockey. I'm like, you can't just casually say that, oh, towel-headed creep. You're like, what is going on? And then, it's like, did they run out of jokes? Like, who was the writer to just come out with utter rubbish like this? And you're just like, yeah, what's going on with the tribe? And, like, what... Again... What was going on in the whole... There were just rugs everywhere. Why were there rugs? And quite classic. Kidnap someone, roll them up in a rug and just carry them along. Cool.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the film was made by Canon. And Canon was the production group by Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus. And they made an insane amount of films. They made millions of films with Chuck Norris, with Charles Bronson. They were a low-budget company that made highly successful films in great volumes. And Richard Chamberlain said that he felt conned into doing the film because Menachem Golan promised him basically a high-budget, great Indiana Jones lookalike film, and
that was produced.
And even hired J. Lee Thompson as the director, who directed the brilliant Guns of Navarone, and he also made other Canon films like Death Wish 4 with Charles Bronson, which I actually like, and he had an all-star cast. John Rhys-Davies is in the film, and he was also in Indiana Jones, which is a nice little thing. Even John Rhys-Davies was amazed that Herbert Lom would appear in the film.
Wow.
But he was a very, very famous actor. I remember him dearly from, how do you call it in English? The witch-burning... Mark of the Devil, exactly.
Speaking of which, there was a witch that fell down the well and blew up. That was interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great. Why?
What was the need?
Why was that in there?
Why was that in there? And then they had the nerve to produce the second one, and you're just like, why are you producing this? But they continued and continued and continued, and just like, I couldn't. Yeah,
Chamberlain expected a $100,000 movie and got a $2.50 movie.
For sure.
But what is also interesting is that Chamberlain said Sharon Stone was extremely difficult to work with. Nobody liked her. People didn't even want to speak with her because they hated her that much. And at one point during production, crew members even urinated in the bathtub in her trailer. And it was only when she stepped in her milk bath that she noticed the strong odor. Because Sharon Stone had to take milk baths during production.
No more impressions. This is it. This is it.
This was as terrible as the Quatermain films and the Jewel Nile joke.
Possibly. No, actually, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Right, that's it. So, thank you very much for watching.
These were bad.
These were bad, all of them.
I would
please like,
rather not watch
subscribe,
them.
and leave a comment below.
Yes.
If you do ever watch all four, let us know which one is the worst one.
Yeah.
It's going to be a process.
It's hard to
a
figure
difficult
that out.
process.
But still, the most important thing is to join us back next Saturday for a brand new episode of the Pork and Knuckles Show. Take care.
Take care.
Ha! I stole that from you this time.